Wow, I really hit the number then. Welcome to another Sunday's Toolbox Tech Talk here with me, Glenn Morris, from the Smart Energy Lab. Wow, we're getting some great audiences turning up for these events now. I'm really impressed and great questions. So straight away, I'm just giving you a shout out to ask some questions of myself and my guest, who I'll introduce in a minute. If you're on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, I can see those comments come in and I can bring them on screen. So anyway, just a heads up there. Also, the usual story, it's great to get some appreciation. So, you can always give me the thumbs up if you're enjoying the live stream. And also, if you're on one of the subscription services or somewhere you can subscribe to it, please feel free to subscribe and get more of my content, because I do a lot more than just these Toolbox Tech Talks. I do training videos, etc. throughout the week. Anyway, okay, so let me just look at my notes here. Yeah, I've got to remind you that I've got some training courses coming up. This week I'm doing a battery standards crash course. Now, I actually help write the standards for battery systems in Australia and New Zealand, so I'm intimately involved with them, and I get a lot of questions all the time. So I thought I'd just run a crash course. Basically, it's 2 4-hour sessions on Wednesday and Thursday this week, starting at 8 a.m. Melbourne time. You can enroll on those. I've got a online enrollment process. It's filling up fast, actually. And so this is where you go. So it's just solaquip.com, or and if you want to type the full URL, you can, but that'll get you there. And you can see I've got a bunch of courses. Battery systems this week. Then coming up in January, inspection course. Now, actually, I wrote this initially just for electrical inspectors. I can take my glasses off now. Okay. I wrote this initially just for electrical inspectors, but basically half the course are electricians and a few electrical engineers who really want to know more about compliance. So it's very, very focused on compliance. Then there's a longer course, which is 5 days long, but only half a day each day. So it's just the mornings basically here in Melbourne, and I run that online. All of these are online courses, by the way. They're all delivered via Zoom as a participant course, and also I record them and then distribute them to the participants after each day. So that way, people actually enroll but never attend, and they just watch the recordings. So that's another pathway. Yeah, so without further ado, let me introduce my guest today. Now, my guest is Jamie Allen, Managing Director of EVO Power. So I'll just bring you on there. Hi, Jamie. I've got you muted. What do you know? It's the old story. You're good now. You're good to go.
Okay, good afternoon, Glenn. How are we?
Yeah, I'm good. It's great to see the sun. It's been a little bit, moody in Melbourne for some weeks now, but it's great to see the sun again. Charge those batteries up. We love it.
Definitely. I've had a busy couple of days, and this morning just invested in an electric mountain bike. So I've been cruising around the Dandenong Ranges with some friends and my son as well. So yeah, it's been a bit of fun in the sun.
You'll have to bring it up here, because we've got the mountain and you've got the bike.
Definitely, yep, for sure.
Actually, it's not fair, because I've been for a few rides with guys with electric mountain bikes, and this guy was like 70 years old, and we're pumping up this 1,300 metre high mountain, and he's just going easy, and I'm sweating away and going, I should get one of those.
So much more fun. Yeah.
Yeah, so much more fun. I forgot to roll my little fancy lower third thing. So there I am. That's me, the Smart Energy Lab. So, and now, so what's been happening in the world of EVO Power?
A lot, actually. This year's been a very, very challenging year. I guess we've obviously COVID and being set up in Melbourne, a relatively new company, established mid last year. It's all been about in-house development of our products over the last 12 to 14 months. So it wasn't so bad because we're in that development stage. But yeah, the last couple of months have been exciting, launching some new products, which we'll talk about. And really gearing up the team. We've had some limitations with hiring new staff and things like that during the lockdown. So now it's kind of open doors now, and you'll see a lot more of us out in the market.
Yeah, it was fun doing that install here at the Smart Energy Lab, where it's masks on and it gets a bit warm and steamy while you're lifting heavy things, and yeah, that was a bit fun.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know anything about EVO Power, what's your elevator pitch? What is EVO Power?
So we're an Australian business, an entity, and we basically system integrate leading brands of batteries and inverter solutions. So we class ourselves as a battery energy storage system manufacturer. Key thing that we try to focus on is quality brands that are established and have proven results over the years, and then we integrate them into turnkey solutions and then locally support them.
Yeah, cool. Well, I think I might just show people, because we actually had a little demo install here at the Smart Energy Lab, so I'm just going to bring that up for everyone. So this is the Prime 3. That's a 3-phase unit with 10 6.5 kilowatt hour batteries in it. It's a pretty impressive unit, Jamie.
Yeah. It's the largest all-in-one system we're doing at the moment that's commercially available. So as you mentioned, it's up to 65 kilowatt hours of usable, of nominal energy, so 60 kilowatt hours of usable energy. But yeah, all packaged together as a AC coupled battery solution with Selektronic and LG Chem.
Yeah. So can you plug solar panels into it?
Not directly solar panels, so you need a separate solar inverter. We recommend utilising the Selektronic certified or the CERT inverters. So that's either a Fronius ABB version or the SelectSun from Selektronic.
Yeah. So in terms of classification, it's a battery energy storage system, but it's AC coupled to any other generation system, like such as a Selektronic certified Fronius ABB SelectSun.
That's right. It could be. So if you go down that model or down that version of being integrated with the Fronius or the ABB certified inverters, that they have full communication, so you can do dynamic control, export limiting. The utility networks like these systems a lot more because they can actually be controlled a lot better. But it can also just be used without solar. It could be just sitting there as a UPS system potentially, or you could pair it up to other types of solar inverters.
All right. So you're not locked into having to use a Selektronic certified solar inverter. You could use others, but you just don't have that fine-grained control.
That's right. There is some other limitations, I guess, from an off-grid point of view. We'd 100% recommend doing the Selektronic certified, so you're not doing frequency shifting and hard derating. It's really a controlled derating of the solar generation. But if it's more of an on-grid application, you've got a lot more flexibility. It could be other brands of inverters. You could pair this up to a 500 kilowatt PV system, and we can do parallel insertion solutions as well.
Yeah, cool. Look, we've had our first question, and what do you know? It's actually about my bling. Oh yeah, thanks, Bradley. Good. Actually, people have been giving me bling, so it's been fun. I've been getting all these gold plastic earrings and things. Yeah, it's just a bit of fun on it, talking about dry subjects like just batteries and solar. Yeah, so thanks, Bradley. So just coming back to the product. So EVO Power's the company, but the products, there's various products that you make. Now, I've got a data sheet here. Maybe we'll have a look at one of them. So shall we start with the Prime 1 and just kind of talk a bit about it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just bring you up. There you go.
Yep. Okay, so basically the Prime 1 means single phase solution. So within that enclosure that you showed before, the Prime systems, we either have 1, 2, or 3 of the Selektronic SP Pro inverters inside. The Prime 1 series will have 1 5 kilowatt SP Pro or a 7.5 kilowatt within there. We actually have solutions now where we can put multiples of those within the enclosure as well. So it may be a 15 or a 22.5 kilowatt single phase connection we can do as well. And there's quite a bit of flexibility that we've got in the battery capacity. If you scroll down, I guess the section black line that you have there, we can scale up the amount of batteries. So a minimum of 4, so 24 kilowatt hours of usable energy. And in 6 kilowatt hour increments, we can go up to 60 kilowatt hours. And that's for the single phase systems.
So that means that you can do an expandable system. So someone could, start off with just 4 is the minimum, right? And then they could add 1 at a time till they got up to 10 and fully spec out the unit.
They could do that. We generally have a bit of, limitation of when you're going to add that additional battery. The manufacturers, generally the state of health, they want that within 5%. So brand new battery. So generally we're trying to say within a year, it's probably best. That's when you can add the additional modules. After that, they would say 5 or 10 years later, the newer battery is going to be a lot more efficient than the older ones that have been potentially derated. It's best we recommend within the year. Generally, the battery tech as well, the manufacturers bring out new models every 3 to 4 years anyway. So yeah, there is a bit of a window that we.
Yeah, that's a question I've had quite a bit from some of my students about. One of the advantages of a modular battery system like a lithium-ion battery is the ability to expand, but what are the limitations? So, you're the first one to point out to me that the 5% state of health difference can be an issue from the manufacturer's perspective. But I think the other issue from my experience too is products change. I mean, this particular battery module, that's the M48 series, I believe.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So if LG Chem decide to stop making that in 2 or 3 years' time, they've got the next version, the M48X or whatever, it may not be backward compatible. So that's another consideration.
Yeah, it is definitely consideration. I guess with any technology, you just have to be aware of that. Yeah, so I guess we like to be clear from the start, but we're saying within that 1 year window, we know that LG is going to stop manufacturing that product. They're giving us a year's notice as well. So we'll tell the market, all right, you've got a year to upgrade your systems.
Well, that's really good, actually, because I've been caught out too where, products that have come up to the Smart Energy Lab and some of them are expandable, and I've just gone back to them saying, maybe we should put another battery module in there and fill out the box. And they go, oh, we don't make that anymore. It's the first I heard of it, I say, what about spares? Yeah, we've got a few, but that's it. So, you can be caught out by not knowing that, the design redundancies happen. So you're saying LG Chem actually announce the end of lifetime of a design before they move on in advance?
Yeah. So generally, this product here, it's not supplied through distribution. So it's not like the Resu battery system integration businesses like ourselves and a few other global companies. So they inform us and we notify all of our customers of the situation. Right.
Cool. So I've got a list of tech questions here. Some of them that I've written, some of them just came up from inquiries. We've even had a few people send stuff in since I promoted this live stream. So I'll run through a few of them. Can you tell me a bit about the remote monitoring options available?
Yeah. So as standard in the Prime system, we have Selectronic's got its own software, programmable software. In addition to that, we add in their Select Live device into our little isolation box. So that can provide remote control to the actual Selectronic inverter. We can program different steps, programming the auto start of the generator at different times, etc. Additionally to that, we've got a switched-in device built into our isolation box as well, either optional LAN connection or we put in a standard 4G SIM. So that can provide internet to the Select Live, but also we've got this advanced data logging of the battery. So it's an LG warranty condition. They're pretty strict on their data logging of the battery modules. So we're getting very granular, very detailed data logging that we do. That also enables fleet management of the systems as well. So say if there's an aggregator wants to put 10 or 100 or 1,000 of these systems together, they can monitor these assets, but also remotely potentially add them to a VPP or control those systems.
Yeah, cool. So while you were just chatting, I thought I'd just bring up actually my select.live so people can see what we're talking about here. So let's have a look. Here we go. So that's select.live there from Selectronic. That's just the monitoring platform. This one's not very feature rich because I don't have any AC coupled solar on this particular unit in the lab. But what I really liked about the fact that it's two-way now, that you can do remote programming using SP-Link on a computer anywhere connected to the internet. You can talk to the inverter through select.live. And the other one I might as well bring up too, since you mentioned it was switched in. This is their portal. Also at my Smart Energy Lab, this is looking at a Selectronic system here, a power chain. And so that was a couple of days ago. Just you can see discharge during the night, which is above the line, and then charging during the day. Yeah, so you've got both of those solutions available as part of your offer.
Yeah, it's as standard. So it comes included as the package price. We find that really important for future. The network's changing, the grids are changing. There's a lot happening there, so we want to make sure this is enabled. But also, if there's any issues within the systems, we've got Selectronic's got their platform, but it's down, but a little bit limited with all the information that you can gather. With our data logging, it's got a lot more detailed information that we can acquire and fault find a lot quicker. And that's we actually manage that technical support as well. So we're not sending all electronic or LG, we manage all that technical support, the warranty exchanges as well, and then we manage those manufacturers.
Okay, right. Now, I touched on software configuration using Select.live. I believe that you manage the initial software configuration too when you ship a product.
Yeah. So we're trying to really minimize the time for installers on site, and end of the day, it may be a 1 or 2 day install, and it's always the end of the day when you've got to do monitoring setup. And without fail, something will go wrong, or it's just a pain in the bum. And if they need to call tech support for the manufacturer, it's always they may be waiting on the phone or something like that. So we want to take all those hassles out. We have a simple form that we have the installation company fill out prior to it. And when we're doing our final commissioning in our factory before it leaves here, we program the inverters, make sure the system's all operational. Then we basically send it out. So it's pre-programmed, pre-registered with SELECTRONIC. The warranties, the switched ins all set up, so everything's pretty much ready to go. We try to make a really simple setup.
Oh, that's great to hear. I mean, look, installers are becoming like IT people these days. There's so much IT involved in installing a system, and often that's, like you said, at the end of the day, when you've done all the hard yards, and then suddenly you're stuck there trying to connect to the Wi-Fi network and trying to program with an app that you haven't used before, and needs a firmware upgrade, and you've got to wait an hour for that to download. None of that. You basically you're putting it in, you're leaving, and you could still connect to it remotely and change any settings that you wanted to tweak afterwards. So it's kind of hits the ground running, this unit.
Yeah. And really, I think there's two options that we like people to really be aware of before they actually install one of these systems or any other brand system. Really think about the internet connection. If you're going to run a LAN, like a data cable to the actual inverters or to the systems, or not. If you want to do 4G, that's great. That's very simple as well. But there's just those ongoing costs the consumer needs to be aware of.
Yeah, having that 4G option is nice too, because that's the other grumble is the customers, Wi-Fi. They don't know the password half the time, or it's written on the bottom of the modem. They can't, find it or whatever. Yeah, it's nice to have that just all in the box solution.
We think so. So the other thing, just on that, generally, what we've heard is every 3 years or so, someone will change their home modem as well. So there's always going to be these issues down the track, either Wi-Fi passwords or changing the modem. So we really like the 4G idea.
So, I mean, part of the attraction, I think, and this is what really impressed me when we did that demo install here at the Smart Energy Lab, was the speed of installing it. Now, I did make a little movie, just, one of those time-lapse ones showing us doing it. It took about 2 hours, and that's actually on YouTube on my channel, so you can have a look at that. It's also on EVO Power's website, I believe. Is that right, Jamie?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, yep.
So you can pretty much see what's involved. Really, you are just plugging stuff in. What impressed me too was the fact that as a pre-assembled battery energy storage system, which what it is, it's a Section 4 solution, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So as far as our standard AS/NZS 5139, this I say falls into the easy category with the least compliance issues. There's no DC wiring apart from plug stuff in, and it's all pre-designed, so you can't go wrong. Even to the point of color coding all of your comms cables. I like that too. So the inverters talk to each other, so you got to plug in the comms cables, but they're different colors, so you don't have, where does this one go? Well, just read the manual. It's all color coded.
Yeah. We've really tried to make it as simple as we can. There's a lot going on with some of these more larger, complicated systems, especially for off-grid, and you're worrying about generators and all the cables and auto start, the rest of it. So I've really just tried to keep it simple, plug-and-play solution.
Yeah, I mean, I think about how our industry's evolved from my early days in the early 90s, where you kind of made everything virtually. Even the mounting system was, you went to the hardware store and bought bits of aluminium and kind of steel and painted it, and everything was kind of DIY sort of. But we've moved progressively toward more engineered solutions, and this is just continue that trend, which is, well, you don't have to get a bunch of boxes and screw to them all and work out how to connect them all together. That's all part of a pre-designed solution. So we're getting to the point where it is pretty safe to say that this system is ready to go. If you can just do basic installation work and your AC and you're a licensed electrician, really there's not a lot of specialist training required. That's my kind of pitch on it. What do you think?
Yeah, no, agree. From an installation point of view, I 100% agree with you from that point of view. I think it's more on the design point of view. So, someone sitting in one of your training courses, actually understanding how to design the off-grid system or sizing for on-grid appropriately. That's probably the highly trained area I think you need to have as part of these systems. Yeah.
Yeah, I often say there's like three ways that you design a system. Method one is you design a system to the customer's requirements. Method two is you just sell them a box with a certain capacity and hope for the best. And three is a budget. They say, oh, look, I've got X to spend. What can you give me? But often you start at one, which is you want to design it to their load, and you end up at the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's horses for courses there. Oh, yeah, great. So we've got a question here. Now, I'll just bring this one up. This is from Ray. Thanks, Ray. Is there a full backup between Wi-Fi, Ethernet and 4G?
So we're not doing Wi-Fi. We've deliberately disabled Wi-Fi from our systems for obvious reasons. A lot of experience over the years of Wi-Fi dropping out or Wi-Fi passwords changing. So we've tried to just narrow it down to Ethernet and 4G. I will have to get back to that question about the 4G and Ethernet swap over. I believe you could have both connected at once, and it would revert to 4G once if Ethernet dropped out. But I'll have to confirm that.
Okay. Yep. I mean, that is a not unusual feature in some of the modern modems. So, I mean, Telstra's pushing it at the moment with the TV ads, always on. Even when your one service drops out, the other one picks it up. Thanks for that, Ray. Yeah, so I've got a few more technical questions here. Now, using the acronym DNSP. Now, if you're not in the electrical industry, you probably haven't heard that one. Distributed Network Service Providers, or what most people think of as their utility, the poles and wires company. I love the way in New Zealand they're referred to as the lines company because they own the lines. It's very, very generic sounding, but that's what they are. Well, they set rules around capacity limits in terms of export limiting, but also in terms of total inverter capacity on a site behind a meter. So what they call, in the standard, we refer to it as the IES capacity. Now, one of the things that has been sort of burning installers a bit is the fact that when you've got a solar inverter, it might be a 5 kilowatt solar inverter, and you add a 5 kilowatt AC coupled battery inverter, suddenly you've got 10 kilowatts of IES capacity. And in some parts of Australia, the limit is pretty low. I know in parts of WA, it's down to 5 kVA. So basically, if you've got solar, there's no room for an AC coupled battery. But it's a bit of a flexible area. Now, you and I were talking before we went live just about my local area, which is the AusNet area. They've got different perspectives. Sometimes it depends who you talk to. But it sounds like we're moving towards a more reasoned approach, which is understanding that if you've got a managed AC coupled system, as you do with the SELECTRONIC, with an SCERT solar inverter, that the ability for anything bad to happen, like exporting more than supposed to, is impossible by design. So but what would you add to that? What's your experience of DNSP limits?
Yeah, we're going through the education process now, I guess, reaching out to the networks and trying to explain, the features, I guess, within the SELECTRONIC and the SELECTRONIC certified. So there has been a couple of networks. I don't want to heard it secondhand, I guess, but in Western Australia, there's been a key network over there. There's only two, but so one of those two has said, "Yep, that's all good. We're really comfortable and happy with that." You're mentioning AusNet here locally in Melbourne, so I think it just makes a lot of sense. We know it works. We've tested it here. Obviously, SELECTRONIC knows what they're doing. So really, it's basically if this electronic fails or something happens with the battery systems, either the Fronius or the ABB, etc., they just derate down to zero. So there won't be any export anyway, and it happens instantly. So I think the network should be fairly comfortable with that. So it's great to see. I think once we've a couple of networks are on board, we can explain that to the other 14 or 15 of them, and hopefully that's going to be enabled moving forward.
Well, we've got a related question actually here from David. Oh, g'day, David. David asks, how are you handling the new South Australian remote control arrangements implemented through AEMO?
Yeah, so but again, that's, I guess, a lot on the inverter side. So SELECTRONIC's been managing that. The last time I checked, that was all under control. We've also partnered with Switched In as well, so they've been heavily involved with all of this. So Again, I'll have to double check with all our engineering team here, but as far as I know, that's under control. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my knowledge, my understanding too. So for those who are not familiar with this, the South Australian government announced without a lot of lead-in that they were going to require solar inverter systems to have a particular response mode in terms of the grid. So when the grid was under stress from too much generation or whatever, that inverters could be ramped down so they wouldn't make the problem worse. Now that ability to control an inverter requires an agent, an agent being an external entity who can respond to the network signals and tell the inverters to change their power rating or their power exchange with the grid. So there are a few companies providing those solutions right now. I'm pretty sure you're right on that one with Switched In, Switched In providing that solution as well as VPP and others, but there is a few players in that market. So because you've got Switched In built in, I guess it's not a problem.
Would like to confirm that before I say anything on the record, but I believe so.
Yeah. So good. As always, this is solar's a moving target. By the way, everything changes every day. Don't you just wake up some days and go, "Is the world the same today? What new rules have come in?"
Yeah, especially when ones like this pop up very quickly. Everyone has to scramble very quickly, and for the installers, it's obviously very difficult as well. So yeah, that's an interesting industry.
All right, just coming back to the technical side of this product, thermal management. Now, you've got a box, and just to remind people, I'm going to just play that little video again so they can see it. You've got a big box, basically, and there's a lot of inverters in there when it's full, with 3 of them pumping 22.5 kilowatts continuously. How do you keep it cool?
So that was the biggest challenge for us. And temperature obviously really is important from a battery point of view to get the long-term performance out of the system. That's actually our 5th iteration of the cabinet. So we've got a lot of back and forth working with LG and SELECTRONIC over the last 16 months now. So really what we've got is a pretty unique system underneath the battery. So air is forced in underneath the system. There's some grills there. We've got some special G4 grade filters. So cool air will come up past the batteries, equally spaced. Sucks through the actual electronic inverters, so they've got fans within them, and we've developed a pretty unique channel system at the back. So we're physically sucking the air out of the core of these electronic inverters into a back channel of our system, and then we've got 2 different temperature-controlled fans within the enclosure. So it's not your typical little 100 mil square fans. This is more industrial-grade inline fans that can really suck a lot of air through. And force out. So they come on 2 different temperatures. We've got them default at 35 degrees. The first fan will come on, and 45 for the second fan. That's generally we don't have to use the second fan. It's only in these that really get 45 plus kind of hot temperature days that will kick in. But we've got there for redundancy as well. So over the 10-year kind of life of these battery warranty systems, if one failed fans, you've got the other one there as well.
I remember seeing a picture of your climate testing facility there at your factory. That's pretty impressive. Yeah. So you actually put it through a whole range of temperatures and make sure it can maintain its rated power.
That's right. Yep. So we've got our environmental chamber. This is where we test down to -5 degrees and up to 50 degrees. That's where we kind of see the most common extremes here. Maybe up on your mountain there, you might get a little bit cooler than the -5, I should say. So. So basically we do all that testing here in-house. Actually, TUV weren't set up in Australia to fully test the actual system to those extremes at this kind of power that we're doing. So they actually done all their tests here in our factory, in our lab as well.
Cool. We've got a question relating to that from Ray. Thanks once again, Ray. And just to everyone else there watching, please feel free to throw those questions at it. It's great to have an interaction with you. Ray asks, what's the IP rating of the EVO Power Prime 3?
Yeah, so it's IP45 rated, the actual enclosure. The little isolation box is 66, I believe it was. But the main system is 45. Key thing again is cooling. These, especially these electronic inverters, they can do really high surge power. They're putting out quite a lot of power at 48 volts as well. So there is a little bit of heat generated from the inverters. So we wanted to make sure we get significant airflow through to actually cool the system, extract that heat from the SP Pros. So IP45 was the right number that we landed on. Again, we've got a lot going on in the back end in the actual design of the systems to make sure no water is going to get in or dust into any places we don't want it to go. But yeah, basically that's the IP rating.
So in terms of the layperson, where can they put something that's IP45?
It can be installed indoors or outdoors. Generally, if it's outdoors, these systems are going to be a fairly large investment. It's not any battery system is going to be a significant investment. So we don't really want these exposed to direct sunlight. And I'd recommend that with any battery. So yeah, ideally you can go outdoors, maybe in a veranda or a shed, south side of a property, something like that. Outdoors is fine. So you can get water spray on it. That's not a problem. Yeah.
Okay, well that's good. Yeah. So most people just think of it indoor or outdoor, but any system that generates heat, you probably don't want to put it in direct sunlight, and just about all battery systems like to operate within up to 40, 50 degrees Celsius. So yeah, it's a good idea not to put them in direct sunlight, even with active cooling.
It's really common sense. Like it's maybe a $20,000 to $100,000 investment, depending on the system's sizing. You want that to last as long as you can, so put it in the best environment. You're not going to leave your Ferrari outside. You're going to put it in a garage, right? Well,
it's funny you should mention that, because we're just in the process of buying an EV at the moment. I just thought about it then. Oh, we're going to leave it outside in the sun. Okay, maybe I'll build a carport, maybe a solar carport.
Good idea. Yeah.
Okay, so thermal management, we've covered that one. Expandability. Now, I think we've covered this off, that you can actually start with a smaller system in terms of battery capacity and enlarge it. What about, can you go from single phase to three phase?
Generally not, I guess, at the moment. So we've designed the cabinets. We've had them certified to the certain sizes. So we don't really want these modified. The batteries can be scalable, but we've had it certified as a 5 kilowatt or a 7.5 or 22.5 kilowatt system. And there's a bit more work that needs to happen in the background. It looks like it's an easy, just mounted on the mounting brake, but there's a lot going on with bus bars and in the back end. So we would say it's not scalable within the enclosure, the power. Yeah.
I don't imagine many people go switching their house from single to three phase anyway, so it's unlikely scenario. But just curious, yeah, that's definitely an issue when you have an expandable system. If you are certified to the best practice guide, the battery storage best practice guide, then you have to get certified all your iterations, don't you? So with 4 batteries, with 5, with 6, with 7, etc.
That's right. Yeah. So I think there's, don't quite remember, there's about 40 or 50 different variants that we've had. Because there's 10 different batteries, and then you've got different capacities of the inverters in there. So yeah.
Gee, that must have been expensive getting them listed.
It took a bit of time. Yeah. And money.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, so the key sort of hardware products are SELECTRONIC, which for those who are not familiar is one of the oldest inverter companies in the world. Really, they've been around for 50-something years, based in Melbourne. Been making inverters for 25, I think, plus years. They made like the second sine wave inverter in the world. They really are just punching above their weight as a small Australian company producing an amazing product. But you've partnered with LG Chem for the battery modules. Why did you choose LG Chem?
Really, what we want to show the industry with EVO Power is we're all about bankable components within our actual systems. We're not a battery cell manufacturer, and we're not an inverter manufacturer. We're trying to get the best of the products that we can source globally. I've got a very good relationship with both of those companies. So, worked with SELECTRONIC over the last 10 years, and I actually set up the LG Chem operations about 4 or 5 years ago now. And I've just seen the way that when something does go wrong with the battery, which may happen, the big brands like an LG are bankable. They step up to the plate. They replace products. They do the right things. They've got that really big brand to protect. So that gives us a lot of, I guess, trust in them that they'll be here to support us into the future. It is a new industry, a new area. So we just want to make sure we're making the safest selections of products and basically growing from there So we want to build off quality. Yeah.
Sure. Would it be fair to say that you're sort of hardware agnostic? It's about system integration, meeting all those benchmarks that you just stated.
Yes, yeah, I guess to a certain degree. So we are looking at other battery technologies and other PCS and inverter manufacturers. So there's a bit happening for next year. So there'll be some announcements coming up. But yeah, really it is bankability is really important, and proven performance. That's what we're looking for from manufacturing partners.
Can I be a pedant here? Can you break apart those acronyms? PCS.
So power conditioning system. I still don't understand why they kind of break it. It seems when you get above 50 kilowatts for some reason in the space, they call it a PCS, but really it's still an inverter. I get that question all the time. Yeah,
yeah, marketing always wins. So in the standards we refer to PCE, which sounds very similar, power conditioning equipment, not systems. And PCE is not just inverters, it's also charge controllers or anything that modifies frequency, voltage or current. It's good to clarify your acronyms. So that was really about why you selected LG Chem batteries and Selektronic. What about warranty, cycle life, energy throughput? How do you address those?
Yeah, so we've got back-to-back warranties with the inverter and the battery manufacturers. So they both come with, because we're with Selektronic, I'll start with. So they've got obviously Australian operations here. They're about 10, 15 minutes down the road from us here. So from a warranty point of view, if something goes wrong, as I mentioned earlier, we handle the tech support, we'll fill out any documentation or any forms. Hopefully we can sort it out ourselves over the phone. But if not, we'll go through that process. We'll replace the products and then sort out with Selektronic in the back end. So they've got a 10-year, it's a really bulletproof inverter, as you know, Glenn, but they've got a 10-year warranty on those actual, on their inverter. LG's got a 10-year performance warranty as well on their batteries. Again, they're locally based. So that's another thing that's pretty important to us, that the entity is set up here in Australia for these manufacturers. But yeah, basically got a megawatt hour throughput warranty, which I think is important to talk about that as well versus cycles, because we're seeing a lot of battery warranties out there saying 2,000 cycles up to 10,000, 20,000 cycles, I think they're saying. We like an actual measurable value, which is for example, each one of the LG Chem battery modules is 19.2 megawatt hours, or 10 years, whatever comes first. That's their individual warranty on those products.
Maybe I'll do a bit of explainer for people what energy throughput is. So that's if you fully charge, then discharge a battery. That's one cycle, but the amount of energy is that full cycle of energy, and times by the number of cycles, and considering the reduction in capacity over time, you'll have a total sort of pool of energy that you've shifted over the life of that battery module or battery system. And so it's actually the most honest representation of the value of a battery storage system, because it's all about shifting energy. It's not about how many cycles did I do today. It's all about shifting energy. And so, I think that's a good point to make, that energy throughput is where it matters. Just on that note, I used to have an Occult Ultraflex here. It's a Australian developed lead acid or advanced lead acid battery system, and they rated them on energy throughput, not cycles. And so I think it was 64 megawatt hours over the life. I was astounded. The system did in 5 years 10,000 cycles. Now for lead acid, that is just unbelievable. That's like off the planet for cycling. But it absolutely achieve that energy throughput. Unfortunately, decided to wind up that brand. So there you go. It's a bit of a legacy thing, but it's all about they did deliver on what they promised. Yeah. Got a few questions coming in, but sorry, what was that?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say another thing. Just be careful. There is a little bit of marketing jargon going on when you look into detail in some of the warranties. You may see a warranty there, so 10 years, 10,000 cycles is the what they say it can deliver. But then you look through the document, it'll say you can only do one cycle per day. So there's a lot of grey area, a lot of marketing going on. We really like the megawatt hour throughput. I think that should be the industry standard. The big American company with the T and a few others are going down that path. So I think it's an LG going down that path. So
let me pick that apart then. So 10,000 cycles, right? Yep. But you're going to do one cycle a day, and it has a 10-year warranty. A lot of 10s there. So a cycle a day, that's 365 cycles a year. After 10 years, I've only done 3,650 cycles. What's the value of having a 10,000 cycle warranty then?
That's the whole marketing point of the.
You'll never get there. You'll never get there. Talking of marketing, I saw a lovely one once which defined a cycle as a discharge was a cycle and charge was another cycle. Yeah, so you got more cycles, and I really like that definition because next time I have to run around the footy field halfway, that's once, and the other halfway, that's twice.
That's how I measure my swimming laps. It's up is one and no one's back yet.
How many laps did I do? Every half is a lap. I like it. Yeah. All right, let's just come back to some questions. So I've got a comment here from Ray. Thanks for this one, Ray. Ray's just saying best practice for any person should be to oversize to what you think you may do. If you need three-phase, you have got it, i.e. for EVs or shed tools. Good point. I mean, it does come down to cost. Three-phase is a more expensive connection, and certainly if you're getting an upgrade from single-phase, it's pretty expensive generally. But three-phase does provide you with the greater capacity for exchange of energy with the grid, also for exporting to the grid, and also IES capacity, so definitely. And EVs are the magic pudding, so they're going to be giving a lot of, or wanting a lot of energy, so good point. Thanks for that, Ray. And David just brought in another point here. What sort of round trip efficiency do you get out of a Prime 3 system? So do you want to define round trip efficiency?
Yep. So I guess there's different on the AC side and the DC side. So it all depends on what power you're running at, and you might see through inverter manufacturers data sheets, they'll have a graph of at 10%, it's very inefficient. You may only get 10% of the power rating. It may be very low. So and then when you get up to around 50% and greater, it's generally 95% or around that kind of mark. So that's what we're seeing for the SP Pro. And then the batteries are fairly similar. They're actually rated at 100%. They're actual rating the nameplate of the LG Chems. But it'd be fair to say general usage would be around that 90% round trip efficiency on these systems. It may be 1 or 2% lower than that, but around that mark.
Good way of thinking about it. AC, round trip efficiency, and DC. Of course, the inverters have a parasitic load, just their own electronics. So if you're just running a mobile phone charger off a 22.5 kilowatt three-phase system, the three-phase system's going to consume more power than your mobile phone charger.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty important to understand that as well. Again, it all depends on what the customer's loads are. So I think from a designing point of view, again, Glenn, I know you go through all this in your training courses, but it's really important to understand your customer's loads when you're sizing battery systems up, because you may be oversizing it by 20%, and that's going to be 20% more expensive, or vice versa. So I think it's really important to get the design right. Yes.
People always forget about the losses in a system when they first think, I use 10 kilowatt hours a day, so I need a 10 kilowatt hour battery. Well, you'll never get it. You'll never get that energy out of it because there's losses in that system. Everyone just contributing. Great. Thank you very much for those questions and comments coming in. Keep them coming. This is good. I'm really enjoying the interaction. So thanks, everyone. And feel free to click the like button. Give us a thumbs up if you're enjoying this live stream. So where we're up to. You touched on the fact that LG Chem rate their battery modules only as their 100% capacity is 100% usable. Is that correct?
No. So LG were one of the first ones, really, one of the pioneers, I guess. There was LG, Tesla, a few other Chinese unknown brands earlier in the piece, but they were the main ones kind of coming out to the market. I think if you remember the PW1, the Powerwall 1, and the original Resu batteries, they were all running off the nominal value, kind of like lead acid batteries as well. It's 100 amp hours, 12 volts, but you can only actually access 50% of that typically. So in the earlier days, they were running off that. They've just recently made a change at LG, saying that it's the full 100% usable energy. The battery modules that we have, again, it's an OEM version of the battery. So they nominate the nominal. And then they tell us what the usable is, which is 95% of that nominal value. So I guess to put that in simple terms, the battery module that we're using within these systems, it's a 6.52 kilowatt hour. We're using 92% of that. So it's bang on 6 kilowatt hours of usable energy that you can access.
That's a pretty healthy figure, 95% usable of the nominal capacity. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're using a little bit less just to reserve that, with the inverters and standby if it is in a grid connected mode, for example. And then there's a blackout. You still want to be able to power the system for quite a few hours in standby. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that as one of the reasons why lithium's now competing so strongly or out-competing lead acid because of the usable capacity. You think you've got a 24 kilowatt hour lead acid battery pack, but you've only got a 12 really. Though you can dip into it. It's kind of like an emergency reserve, which is a little bit nice to have, but from a day-to-day basis, you're not going to use it. So, yeah, it's kind of just a feel-good thing. I think it's like having a spare fuel tank in your car that you're never allowed to use.
Or if you do use it, it's going to cost you.
Yeah, it's going to cost you. That's right. You've got the expensive, rocket fuel in the back that you can call upon sometimes. So question from Bradley, what is the end of life capacity at 10 years? Now, this just in general, what does this mean? We all know that battery systems age, and the way they age with lithium, I understand, is that they lose a little bit of voltage after every cycle, a really tiny amount, but it adds up. So after your 3, 4, 5,000 cycles, whatever, you've lost a bit of voltage, therefore you've lost a bit of capacity. Is there a residue capacity that's deemed to be end of life at 10 years?
Not end of life, but I guess probably correct is what's warranted is what I guess is the important thing that the customer would want to understand and know. So I guess that's another really important one. So thanks, Bradley, for that question. So there's variable levels. The LG, for example, they guarantee there's going to be 60% or more capacity in the battery at year 10, unless you've done a certain amount of megawatt hour throughput during that time. So you may have done 2 cycles per day and the warranty is expired at year 5 or year 6, for example. So 60% is the warranted energy retention within the batteries. So one thing I just additionally want to point out there is that value is, there's other brands of batteries and products out of the market, which may be 70 or even 80%. That's all well and good, but I guess it comes down to the actual company that's honouring the warranty of that battery. And if they've been around for 10 to 20 years, the amount of time that the battery warranty is given.
Actually, I might just point people at the lithium-ion battery test center website for a second. So this is a federally funded facility, and it's set up to give real-world comparisons of different types of batteries. They've done a series of comparative tests over the last 3 years or so, and all the data is publicly available and on this website. So remember, it's government funded. It's managed by ITP Renewables, who are just awesome. The guys in Canberra who do this, I know them, and this is a great place to go and get some real data. So when someone sort of makes some outlandish claim, they've put some of these batteries to test. But I think there's a caveat to that. They've done accelerated testing. So these systems are really being cycled pretty fast, which doesn't suit every chemistry. So there will be some that will have suffered from that accelerated testing, where in real-world applications, they wouldn't have been experiencing that.
Yeah, you'll probably see on there, I know there's a couple of chemistries. So again, some of the earlier batteries that come onto the market, and they haven't been designed for that, 2.5 cycles per day kind of numbers on there. They were quite energy dense products as well. So it needs to firmly get rid of that double cycling, which they're not designed for. So it's a really interesting website, I guess, to check out.
Oh, I think you've got a sales question here. What's the turnaround time from order to delivery? I think can we get it before Christmas?
Yes, we can. So we've got stock here in Melbourne. We've got an assembly team downstairs that put it all together. So give us a call whenever you're ready.
That's great.
But generally, it's a 1 week turnaround because we want that form filled out, as I mentioned before, so we can pre-program, get everything all tested and configured for that actual site. Great.
Another one. Questions are coming in again. So this one's good from Dennis. He says, can the EVO BMS be changed to reduce the depth of discharge and extend battery life?
Of course, yes. So it's not so much the BMS, it'll be the programming within the inverter. So the BMS has got its set values, I guess, the extremes of where you can charge and discharge to. If you try to go beyond that, it'll protect itself. So it's that actual inverter that you program. So you may want to say it's for off-grid, you may want to set it to only go down to 40% daily, for example. So that's easily done via the programming of the inverters.
From my experience, there's a few questions I usually put to a customer when they ask me about battery storage. One is, how long do you plan to be here for? I mean, if you want something that's got a life cycle of 20 years, you're kind of probably going to be pre-purchasing it for other people further down the track, the next owner of the house. Now, it might be a nice thing to do, hand over a house with a power system that still works, but it is an investment beyond your ability to utilize it. So, you should probably consider how long you plan to use that system for. But the other consideration is, with changing technology and cheaper, battery storages are progressively getting cheaper. Investing in something that's going to last 20 years is probably over-investing, I'd say.
Yeah, that's generally what I say as well. If it's a Grid Connect application, use the battery as much as you can. Utilize that as much, because in 10 years' time, battery pricing, we're all expecting it to be significantly cheaper again. And it may be a new, completely different chemistry or solution anyway. It may all just be EVs that we're using to power our homes or something from that space. But off-grid is a different consideration. So you really need to think about it, how often you want to run the generator or not, I guess is the big question on that side.
So we might be seeing the EVO Power electric car soon?
Oh, I'd hope so, yeah.
You might have some marketing problems. Is it Mitsubishi who make the EVO?
The EVO, yes.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
IBM's recently copied our branding as well. There's an EVO, and they've got something that looks really, really similar. So.
Oh, well, you must be rubbing it with the big boys then. They're copying your branding. That sounds good.
That's it. Yeah.
Now, we did actually have a play with another product here at the lab when you came in, and I'm just going to roll the video so people can see it. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this unit here? Here we go.
Yes, yep. So obviously we've got the main unit, which is an outdoor enclosure, but we've also developed an indoor rack style solution. So we call this the M48 Select. It's paired up exactly the same battery modules. We've got all the DC protection within there, so breakers to the inverter isolator, and also all the individual DC breakers. We pre-wire all of the what you see there, all the DC Amphenol connectors and all the comms is all there ready to go. We also pre-wire the DC cable coming from the battery rack to the SELECTRONIC inverter. So we basically have this as a package solution. We provide the SELECTRONIC inverter, the batteries, the rack, everything all together as another plug-and-play solution. The reason for that, there is a bit of cost involved with our prime systems to have them fully engineered and certified and outdoor rated and all the temperature control, everything that goes on within the big prime systems. This is more, I guess, of a simplified version of that, which is more of a battery system, not a full BESS.
So is this a Section 5 solution, a certified battery system?
Yeah, so that's where it falls under the Section 5. Generally, it's more so going to be under Section 6 for that product. So because the installer's doing their other connections above. It's a tricky area here again. So the individual battery modules themselves are in Section 5. So again, it comes down to interpretation, I guess, how inspectors are going to say, is that battery module on its own within a whole rack? They're all the same modules, they're Section 5. Or if you're pairing it up with another inverter and you've got another enclosure around it. So from our eyes, we see it as but I think there's some grey areas. There's a lot of different products out there, a lot of battery modules and people putting things in enclosures, racks, I should say. So yeah, I'd say that's still a bit of a grey area. So it'd either be Section 5 or 6.
Now, if you've already lost us and talking about sections, I actually run a course on this week. So Wednesday and Thursday, I'm doing 2 4-hour sessions on, I call it the Battery Standards Crash Course, which will explain what a Section 4, Section 5, Section 6 system is and how to comply with that. Also, how to design a battery storage system in terms of a customer's requirement. So yeah, I'll just give myself a little plug. So yeah, a little drum roll there. My online training is available if you're interested in those courses. courses. All right, we've got another question come in. Thank you. So let's have a look. Dennis asks, any thoughts on the recent Lithium Australia announcement of improved LiFePO chemistry by addition of manganese, 25% capacity improvement? Maybe marketing bloat, but could be a game changer.
Yeah, I guess there's a bit going on in that space, and there's a lot of different chemistries being developed. I know the newest version of the LG Chem battery cells, they're reducing the amount of cobalt and increasing the manganese by, and I think it's a similar kind of number, the actual percentage. So the ratio has changed quite a bit. So I think that's the way that they're going, or have less power, I guess, is what they're looking at. It's more for an energy cell. So I think that's important. There's a lot of LFP technologies as well, which becoming really advanced as well. So I think it's a moving space, but it's exciting to see something happening in Australia locally. We're really excited about that.
And Bradley points out that this has been offered also by Valence for 5 years, right? Okay, it's so enriched with manganese. You mentioned cobalt. Well, for those not familiar, cobalt's kind of a bit of a conflict mineral, one of the bad guys in terms of where they're sourced from, and a lot of companies are trying to reduce their use of cobalt. I mean, you find them in your mobile phones as well. It's not just unique to battery systems, but it's good to see companies like LG Chem making a concerted effort to remove as much cobalt as they can to minimise it.
Yeah, I think energy density is a little bit of the issue there. So you've got the LFP technologies are great in themselves. NMC's really got its space in electric vehicles, trying to get as much power and range as you can out of them. Smartphones as well, etc. You want to get it, the iPhone very compact. I think a good thing that's happening there, they're trying to really crack down on the cobalt issues that you're talking about there. So finding responsible supply chain for that actual things. A lot of that's run by actual Apple and these kind of manufacturers that say this must be from non-conflict areas. Now LG's obviously a supplier to Apple and a few of these big organisations.
So, look, we're coming towards the top of the hour, so I'm going to start winding things up, but I do know that you've got some other products in the offing. Did you want to talk about what other plans you might have going forward from here?
So our big, I guess, where we want to direct our company in the future is more in the C&I storage space. So solutions from 100 kilowatts, maybe 250 kilowatt hours, and up to the multi-megawatt hours. So we're really gearing up our engineering team, our resources here locally in Melbourne, to have integrated solutions. So we've got a couple of really key battery partners and obviously PCS or inverter partners working with. So we're hoping by mid next year we'll have a commercialised solution in that space. And we do have a few other readily available solutions now. So we've got the Prime range, which is the outdoor, the M48 Select, which you just showed before in the rack. So it's an indoor range with Selectronic. And we also have just smaller solutions. This is more just a supply of the Resu low voltage batteries and the Selectronic units, more for smaller fringe grid, maybe residential applications.
I'm going to pick you up on one more acronym, C&I.
Commercial and industrial.
I always feel dumb when people throw acronyms at me that I don't know, and I go, should I know what this means? I'll just pretend I do. Yeah. I mean, some industries are terrible for it. I know medicine is just full of TLAs, 3-letter acronyms. They can't even say 3-letter acronyms. They call them TLAs. I love it. Well, it's been great talking to you again, Jamie. So thanks very much for taking the time on a Sunday on your day off, coming to talk to us all here on Toolbox Tech Talk.
Not a problem. There's never a day off, so it's all good, Glenn. Not a problem. Thanks for having us.
I know the feeling. Yeah. Okay, well, I'll let you go, and I'll just wind up the session with a little bit of a promo for my training courses. But see you around, Jamie.
All right. Thanks again, Glenn. Cheers.
Okay, bye. Well, that was great talking to Jamie again, and I must admit I was very genuinely impressed with the Prime 3 install here, just the simplicity of it. The thing that also came in, and I do a bit of consultancy for companies in designing systems, is that effectively most of the cost in installing a complicated system like the Prime 3 is embodied in the purchase price. You don't have to think, well, how much is my installer going to charge me to put together all these separate components and choose cables and choose protection equipment? and gee, I hope they chose the right ones, it's all done for you. So actually, your costs are much more accurate when you know what the main build price is going to be straight out of the box. But anyway, just to finish up, I just wanted to say a couple of things. If you enjoyed this live stream, please give us a thumbs up. And if you're on YouTube, for instance, you might want to subscribe to my channel, because I'm always producing training content. Every week I'm just about running a course, and often I do some little spot training sessions which I'll present, and also some product reveals, because there's a lot of products that have been donated here to the Smart Energy Lab, and I generally talk about them and talk about their features, etc. So keep an eye out. I'm doing a new series called What's in the Box? Yep, it's an unboxing series. It's kind of practical in COVID times where I haven't been able to run training courses here. And so I'm looking at a lot of products from a data sheet point of view, and also the physical, opening it all up. So once again, if you're interested in any of my training courses, this is the website you can go to. The short URL is just solequip.com. You don't have to put the AU on. You'll go straight to the training courses. And this week coming up is the crash course in battery system design and install training. So 16th and 17th, that's Wednesday, Thursday this week, is my crash course. So thanks to everyone, and thank you for the comments and contributions and the thumbs up. It's all been great. So I hope to see you back here next Sunday at 2 p.m. Melbourne time for another Toolbox Tech Talk. Okay, see ya.